Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to start on your op art project to make something like what we see here. Okay, so this is kind of two separate steps. We have the op art grid in the background, so that's what we're going to start with, just the black and white part today. And then we'll talk about this colorful stripe, and I'll give you guys different options that you could possibly use for your project. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a grid, right? And when you think of a grid, I'm going to start with pencil first, and we'll get into Sharpie in a little bit. When you think of a grid, there are lines that are vertical in a grid, go up and down, and so they start on the top part of your paper and they go to the bottom part of your paper, right? So if we're making a typical grid, they're going to be straight or relatively straight, okay, like this grid that I'm making here. Okay, and then the second part is first part, right? Vertical lines. Second part of a grid is those horizontal lines. They start on the right or the left side of the paper and they go across to the other side. Okay? Okay, so now this is, like I said, just like a standard grid. But what we want to do is not standard. We want to make ours look like some sort of optical illusion is happening, and almost like make it look like there's movement happening within that grid. And so to do that, it's really super easy. You just take, instead of just doing straight lines, you just start to curve those lines in your grid. You just have to keep in mind the lines that are vertical, they still have to start and stop go from the top to the bottom, and the ones that are horizontal, those lines still have to start on one side and end up on the other side, but they can be wavy or zigzag or whatever in between. Okay, I'm actually just going to do this straight with Sharpie so you can see it a little bit better, but if you I want you guys to probably start with pencils so that you know, if you make any mistakes you can erase them really easily. Okay, so now this is my op art grid. So I'm going to start off with a wavy line. Okay, I might add part of another line in over here too. So I'm still starting at the top and ending up at the bottom. So I'm working on my vertical lines first. I'm going to add all those. Okay, so I have all of my vertical lines done. Now I'm gonna work on my horizontal ones. Same thing, we don't want a standard grid. We want to make these ones be wavy or curved or zigzag or whatever as well, but you have to start on the right side and end up on the left side or vice versa, whatever, it doesn't matter. Here I go. All right, so I finished my op art grid. So much more interesting than just the regular straight line grid, and it kind of, you can probably already see it kind of looks like it's moving a little bit, right? It looks like it has dimension even though it's a flat piece of paper. Okay, so the next step that we're gonna do is we're gonna start coloring it to make it look like a checkerboard, all right? Now, this is really simple to do, but sometimes people get a little bit confused because of the fact that it's all curvy. So wherever you start And I would suggest you maybe mark your squares that you're gonna color in with a pencil first. Wherever you start, like let's say if I wanna start in this square first, so I'm actually gonna mark that with a Sharpie just so you guys can see it, but I would really suggest you start with pencil. You then want to connect all of the squares by the corners. So this one, so we don't want to go side by side, right? Then you wouldn't create the grid. You would lose that grid or checkerboard effect. You want to go diagonal. So I'm going to go up to this one, and I'm just going to focus on one diagonal line at a time and put little X's in there as like a guide. And sometimes I have to like stop and really think about it. Okay, like is this one connected? Because if you mess up the grid in one part, it kind of messes it up for the whole thing. Okay, so then I'm gonna go from where I started. I'm gonna go diagonally down one and put a little X there, and then I'm gonna mark this whole line. And really take my time figuring this out because this is like a pretty important step. See, like it can be a little bit confusing in some spots, right? Like I wanna go diagonal, just pay attention to the square that you're at and think what is diagonal to that one. Now I'm gonna go down to the next row. So take your time doing this. All right, so I believe that I got everything marked, the squares that I need to color in, all of those spaces. And so I'm just gonna start coloring. A lot of times I see people using the Sharpie, and when they're coloring, they're pressing really hard on the Sharpie, and that really hurts the Sharpies and makes them dry out extremely fast. So I want everybody, while they are coloring in, I suggest you outline your spaces first, a little bit thicker, okay? And try to be really light with the marker. If you have to press really hard, you know, you really don't need to. So you're hurting the marker by doing that. They're gonna dry out a lot faster. Okay, and then pick a direction. Once you've outlined it, pick a direction. I'm gonna go with vertical. So then I'm just gonna color in the rest, and I'm being really light with it. I'm gonna color in the rest of this section vertically, right? So just pick a direction, stick to it. You can't see the lines like that much, but you can enough. It's like all these like little details, they kind of like add up across the whole image, and it will be noticeable at the end, and it will either make your project look really nice or it might take away from it if you go in a million different directions. You'll also be more prone to coloring outside the lines if you go in a bunch of directions. So stick with whatever direction you pick, and I'm just going to keep outlining and coloring until I have my entire op art grid colored in.